Welcome to Overtime on Inferno, your weekly roundup of all the biggest stories in CSGO quicker than Virtus Pro will not become a two-time major winning champion. Or outsiders.
Yeah, it's weird. You gotta be careful.
All right. Either way, welcome to the show. Please remember to rate and review at the end of the episode. I'm Logan. This is Aizyesque. I almost said I was Aizyesque. That would have been weird. Let's get into it. We have a bunch of variety stories as per usual, though just a smaller amount. Most of this podcast today is going to be about the RMR. We'll talk about what happened in RMR A for Europe, what happened in the Americas RMR, which is completed. We'll talk about the absolute shit show that is currently RMR B, and we'll touch on Evil Geniuses, which is actually where we're going to start.
Yeah.
So we talked about last week how Evil Geniuses somehow... through everything, did the call an ambulance but not for me meme themselves and somehow made it to the major qualifiers, made it to the RMR.
Yeah.
Team Detonate had some passport related issues and then had some other related issues and played. So somehow they made it.
Yeah, but not for long. They were dumped out pretty sharpish by Paqueta.
Yes, it was Paqueta. So EG won't be in the major, which allows them to do the thing that they were going to do a week ago before they found out that they actually had to go and compete for the major, which is they removed Hext from the team. They're bringing him down to EG Black, I think. They have brought in, as rumored a month and a half ago, Refresh.
Which fine. Like, it's not inspiring, but I think it's probably an upgrade. He's not a bad player.
No.
He's not an amazing player, but he's not a bad player. He's an upgrade. Certainly an upgrade on Hext. He's been on multiple decent teams.
Uh-huh.
By all accounts, everyone who's played with him seems to speak quite highly of him as a personality as well. Like in the server, like as a leader and whatnot. Vorborg on Twitter has been talking about how he's a leader and, he's got experience.
Yeah, I think Vorborg has coached him before because I believe that he was on the Copenhagen Flames roster prior to moving up to...
He was on Fragsters, is what I remember.
I think he was...
Fragsters to...
I thought it was Copenhagen.
He might have done at some point. He's played for a decent number of teams.
Yeah,
he was on Fragsters for a while with Stown, actually. If you remember, it was Stown, Dragonfly, Refresh, and two other players who I don't remember.
He was on Copenhagen Flames. In 2020, he was on Copenhagen Flames, and Vorberg's been there for forever until he moved over to Evil Genius.
So he knows the guy. He's a pretty solid player. He's certainly an upgrade on Hext. And there are people I've seen being like, it's not enough, like, it's uninspiring, like, this isn't going to, like, get you back in the top 10, and you just see Vorborg. And I agree with him going, well, who's the player who's going to stop this team being the 100th best team in the world and move them to the 10th? Like, that, it's an upgrade. It's a step in the right direction. It's not the whole 9 yards, but if you keep making upgrades, you keep getting good players to join your team, eventually you will become a good team. You're seeing that. Heroic have made incremental changes constantly, incrementally signing better players. I mean, Refresh is a victim of that, where they replaced him with Shush, I believe. Which looks inspired now. Shush is really good. Shush is a
Heroic
robot.
Actually have done something really interesting and cool, which is that teams all go blow it up, and Heroic has gone, okay, we have this good 5. How can we make it slightly better?
Yeah.
And they just move pieces around the core, which no other team seems to do, the move pieces around the core when you're good.
What Heroic have done, the problem is a lot of teams get shit for it. So, I mean, this is going to be a strange example because in retrospect, it was doomed. But do you remember when Mouse replaced Sticko with Snacks?
Yes.
And they got
for like
so
3
much
seconds
shit for that.
Yeah, they played in Brazil for like one event and then...
Well, no, they won New York with Snacks.
They won New York. Okay, so they won New York with Snacks, and then they played in Brazil. I think they did IE in Brazil.
Yeah, they played a couple of things, and it didn't really work. Snacks didn't really fit. But the idea there is the same, where you're already a good team. Use that leverage to sign a superstar or a improve that little bit more, because being the 5th best team in the world is great, but who was the 5th best team a year ago?
Heroic.
Do you remember? Because I fucking don't.
It's Heroic or Gambit.
Nah, Heroic with like 3rd, I think. But like, nobody cares. In 3 years' time, nobody cares if you were the 5th best team in the world. You might 100%. As well go all out and try and win. That's the whole point of like professional sports, esports competition. Like the point is to win. You might as well go all out. And Heroic are a really good example of improving when you're good instead of waiting till you're bad to make a change, which teams are very, very bad at doing. I find like you rarely see upgrades while teams are doing well. But then
teams like Evil Geniuses,
yeah. I mean, they took ages to change and they're still too slow. So them now starting to do these incremental upgrades, fine. Like again, there's a lot of things you can. I think people just like to shit on Evil Geniuses, and I'm criminal for that as well. But I think it's important to look at these decisions as what they are and go, yeah, that one's fine. Like, there's no point carrying on to shit on them for how bad they've been in the last year for making a move that isn't worth shitting on. Like, it's fine. Like,
so Launders put a tweet out. He actually put 2 tweets out. One was just a banger meme, but the other one was actually like important, which was EG would have more fans with a full NA lineup and win just as much. They have offered so much support to NA and somehow have become the region's bottleneck at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because I'm not sure how much ago. A year ago, we were quite big on the, sign NA talent. Like, you might as well. I think we might have been wrong. I think there is just not enough talent in the region since Valorant came out, and you do actually just have to go abroad.
The thing is, like, I agree if they want to get better, they have to go abroad. But obviously they are comfortable to some degree winning the amount that they are winning, because they're not winning. And if they had just picked up Nouns or picked up players from Nouns or picked up like Truck Lover from Mythic or one of the players that like is on like one of the good players on these other teams and just said, fuck it, I understand we're not going to win because something, let's just deep into the NA thing, right? Then
but
like
who'd you have as the in-game leader? That's kind of the issue.
Bring back Shake.
Yeah, exactly.
Just make it Bad News Bears, okay?
Yeah, exactly. That's like, I get it, but Vorborg has said he wants Refresh as a lead, like not necessarily an in-game leader, but like, a team leader.
I mean,
with
and
him and Milan are your 2 European players. They're not the stars, are they? Like they are the guiding lights, which NA doesn't really have. A lot of the older talent moved to streaming or Valorant. A lot of the younger talent also moved Valorant. So what you're left with is people who are raw, and about half of the talent you had before. Like you probably do need to import leaders to the region, which is, I mean, when Yakinda came over, he talked about how he taught Liquid how to play. Like you sign these vocal players from Europe to give you some sort of guidance on how to play the game like Europeans, because you don't have that practice as well.
Yeah, none of the 3 big American teams, and I'm including Evil Genius in there, are a full American lineup or a full North American lineup, right? Liquid has Yakindar in it, and then Complexity has JT, who's from South Africa, and Halzerk, who's from Norway.
Yeah.
So we're kind of all over the place there. Like point being is that there's no NA team that's actually just a full NA team.
Any NA team. If you're going to have 3 NA teams, 3 big NA teams, quote, you're going to have to sign Europeans to fill the gaps, because there's like one good NA AWPer at a push in OC. There's maybe 0 good in-game leaders.
It depends on how you feel about Nitro on a daily basis, but yeah.
It also depends how you feel about Stanislaw. I'm sure some people still rate Stanislaw. JT, if you want to count him as American because he's been here for so long, fine. I think JT's pretty decent.
Yeah, I think JT's good as well.
If a little limited, but he's fine. But you're going to have to fill gaps with European players or Brazilian players or fucking Asian players at this point. Like, there's talent in Asia.
I mean, they tried to do Asian players. That didn't work very well on the doomed Gen G roster with Bentet.
Yeah.
The roster we all try and block out of our minds.
Didn't the team win an event just before COVID hit?
It had to be Flashpoint where they were the only team there.
They were doing decently, and then COVID hit and it ruined it. I'm sure. I'm convinced this is a thing.
Okay. Well, while
I'm
you
gonna look it up. Well, yeah,
while you Google. So, to wrap up our little thing on the North American RMR, the teams you expect to make it through made it through. So, Liquid, Complexity, Furia, all made it through. Furia did 3-0. Complexity and Liquid both 3-1. Liquid lost to Furia. I'm 99% sure. Yeah, Liquid lost to Furia 2-1, and then Complexity lost to Pain 2-1. Pain made it through as well, and then our fifth team was Fluxo. The other teams in the general ballpark were Paqueta, MIBR, and Nouns, who took Liquid 3 maps, but it was actually kind of a banger series. Not what you super wanted to see from Liquid, but good to see some amount of life. Teams that didn't make it, that you actually care about, Imperial. They didn't have the plot armor this time.
16-0 Team 1, though, which was...
0-0 Nation didn't make it, and then Team 1 looked like a absolute fucking train wreck.
They got absolutely battered. I just looked it up. Gen G won DreamHack Anaheim in February 2020, just before everything shut down. They beat Furia 2-0 in the final.
That's not a real event.
They beat... So the event was Furia North, Endpoint 4s, Gen G... Complexity, who I think were a European team at this time. Yeah, this is the Blame F config. Yeah.
This is the Juggernaut.
MIBR, who God knows who was on MIBR at this point, and Ents, who I think were a Finnish team at the time. Yes, so Juggernaut, Complexity, Brazilian Furia, obviously North was still in 4s. That's not a bad win. That they were on the right. Som was the best player in the event. It was things were looking up, and then COVID hit, and Gen G got fucked.
Som, Automatic, and Bentet were actually not bad for that team. I cannot remember for the life of me who the other. It was Krusta on the team.
Krusta and Daps. It was.
Oh my fucking god!
Yeah, this team was actually solid, and then COVID hit, and it completely ruined them.
Yep. So to wrap up North America, save Malbs, and everything else happened as you expected it, plus Fluxo.
I'm Malbs' biggest fan, but yeah. I'd like to see him saved from Team 1, but also he wasn't brilliant at this event either, so...
No, but we've seen him
it's hard
really
to... Yeah, I'm still convinced he's very talented, but it will probably get wasted on this team, and... I think he probably needs a really good in-game leader to get the best out of him. All
right,
he's still young.
Next on my list, I'm not checking it twice, is the Asian RMR. Super quick thing here. So teams you expected to do well did well, other than Rare Atoms.
Yeah, Rare Atom are just cursed when it comes to majors, I think. I mean, they lost to Mongols. It's fine. To be fair, there were 3 teams here that could have realistically gone through. That Greyhound, Mongols, and Rare Atom. If I had to those would be the 3 you would imagine.
But there's only 2 slots, so one of them wasn't gonna make it. And it happened to be Rare Atom, which sucks.
It's always Rare Atom.
It sucks because I want to see Rare Atom at the major, and also I really want purple stickers. They're really hard to find. It's Outsiders and London Conspiracy, and that's it. As a guy who likes purple, it's hard to find purple stickers.
I really want an Outsiders shirt, just the plain black shirt with Outsiders written on it. I think that would be really, I think that's really cool merch to have. I really want it.
But yeah, so no purple stickers from Rare Atom. I'll survive. But that happened about as expected. I opened up America's RMR and meant to open up Europe RMR 2, which I didn't do. Europe RMR A. Okay, so Europe RMR A. We'll spend a little bit more time here. So we said a lot of things last week.
Yeah, I think our hit rate was okay.
We were about 50%, I'd say. The problem is the 50% that we were wrong about was not really the 50% expected to be wrong about.
We're also like really wrong. Like I said, I didn't think Fnatic were great. They went through 3-0.
So let's start with the beginning. Navi and Fnatic first and second. We said Fnatic probably weren't going to be great. We said Fnatic would probably get through, but closer towards the like 7-8 spot. We didn't expect them to go 3-0.
I didn't expect a 3-0, but they beat B8 in a 2-0 game.
I'm gonna skip the third place team for right now, because that's its own conversation.
Yeah.
Bad News Eagles. We expected to just kind of get through.
Let's go.
I don't know how.
Bad News Eagles. They're my team now. Right. Them and Fnatic are gonna have to be my team for the major. We'll get on to why in a minute.
Gamer Legion, we said, could be a dark horse for one of the last spots here. Managed to get through. Respectable.
They look like they show up at majors, man. Like Suhi's a gamer.
Yeah. Apex, none of us thought would get through.
I think I was a bit more high on Apex than you were.
I think the two of us, I think at least I just kind of threw them in like the 10th, 11th place area.
I seem to remember saying like, oh yeah, no, JL's meant to be really good. Like I've heard people saying he's really good. He was really good. He had to be. Like, you also are a bit of a Nork hater, if I remember rightly.
Yes, correct. OG made it through. Kind of expected, like on one hand expected, on the other hand, like
you can't expect anything out of OG. Like you just can't. It's impossible.
This OG feels like old Nip, where it was like, and by old I mean like 2 years ago. Like I cannot predict a Nip at any given moment in time, because it was like the Nip with Rez and Plopsky and Lekro, maybe not Lekro. It was like the Nip that, like, at any given moment they could show up and do something great, but I cannot ever expect them to do anything.
So, I'm going to steal a point from Nero, Harry, of HLTV and TLDR, who he always says about OG when he watches them. He thinks Flames is absolutely amazing. Like, he thinks Flames is really, really good. And he does not understand why Flames is always being baited by Neofrag and at the time Nexa, when it really should be the other way around. Like he's convinced Flames is amazing, and he's being held back by the way OG set up the team. Neofrag is a proper flat track bully. Like he smacks bad teams, but he's just not very good against good teams. So OG do have talent. They just I kind of agree with Harry in a sense that they do misuse it, but I'm not sure Flames is quite as good as he thinks he is. We'll see.
And the last team that made it through straight up, okay, because there is a last chance qualifier, which we'll get to in a second. The last team that made it through straight up was Mouse Sports. Good.
Exertion went absolutely sicko mode in their 2-2 game.
And then the three teams that made it through into last chance qualifier, you may know. B8, you probably don't know, but who played fucking amazingly.
Wow. They did well in the best of ones. They did pretty well in the best. They got well in the best.
Okay, they did well in the best of ones.
Let's put it this way. They won more maps than the last team you're going to mention.
Yeah. Well, no, their best of 3 against Fnatic and the third place team that I'm not yet mentioning were actually really good games too.
Yeah.
They just couldn't take them out.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Apex 2-0, but like whatever. But no, the best of 3s against Fnatic and Team 3 were very good. At least to watch. I refuse to mention their name until we get to the end here, by the way. Falcons will be the last chance qualifier, who expected. The reason I say expected is because they have plot armor.
Yeah, if they had real plot armor. Well, I guess like it would be a really good story if they got through the last chance qualifier.
No, this is plot armor because they lose in the very last bit of RMRA. They go to the last chance qualifier. They have to fight their way through. No,
if they get through the last chance qualifier, they do have plot armor.
Someone's paying them off at Blast, or not, as we'll talk about in a minute. A little bit later. And then FaZe is the last team that made the last chance qualifier, which the fuck?
Yeah, so like look, there's been a lot of talk about how the format is bad and seeding is rubbish. And
No, format's good. I
FaZe
refuse.
didn't win a best of 3. Like, they think, oh, you know, get upset in best of 1. FaZe only won best of 1s. Do you know, like, you could talk all you want about flukes in the format. FaZe lost 3 best of 3s back to fucking back.
I'm going to give a little bit here, which is that FaZe had to play Na'Vi, Bad News Eagles, and then Mouse in best of 3s. But
I
also,
don't care.
You should be able to beat most of those teams.
Na'Vi on current form are not that scary. Nope. I don't care what anyone says. Bad News Eagles are like the 40th best team in the world. Or like they're on they're just about to sneak into like the top 30 on rankings. There's no like, if you're FaZe Clan, like I love Bad News Eagles, I love watching them play, and I think they're actually a pretty solid team. But if you're FaZe Clan, I don't think you can ever say, oh, you know, we did have to play Bad News. No, you should be beating them. And then FaZe versus Mouse, like any other time, you wouldn't be going, yeah, but like it was Mouse Sports FaZe lost to. Like, they're just not, like, you just wouldn't make it. If they lost in the quarterfinals of Katowice, you wouldn't go, yeah, but it was some Mouse Sports. Like, but nobody makes that argument then. FaZe beat teams like Mouse Sports. They beat teams like Na'Vi, and they definitely normally beat teams like Bad News Eagles. They lost 3 back-to-back best of 3s.
They only took 1 map in all those. The Na'Vi and the Bad News Eagles ones were 2-0s.
Yeah. Like, B8 won more maps at this event than FaZe did.
Yeah. And people are bitching online on the internet webs about how like these quote unquote tier 3 teams are getting through and not like the big teams and like wow,
then.
Well, that literally, this is my entire thing. If you think that VP or FaZe should have just gone through, then win 2 best of 1s and a best of 3 against tier 3 teams.
Look, I tweeted this.
Tier 3 in big quotes, but like just fucking win then. Like if it's so easy for them to get through, then just fucking win.
So I tweeted this the other day. People will have a go at teams like B8, like Bad News Eagles, like even 9. They're like, oh, they're not that good. They don't consistently win these tier 2, tier 3 events. And then teams will lose to them at this event. Go, oh yeah, but you can't like these teams are really inconsistent. It's really hard to like consistently beat. You know, oh, flukes happen. Like, why was that? It's so hard to consistently beat teams like B8 and 9, which is exactly where these teams that consistently win tier 2 events. 9 and B8 are very, very good. Like, less so B8, but like, I mean, we've seen how good 9 are. But like, Bad News Eagles are a good team. The fact they don't consistently win tier 2 events is because the tier 2 scene is really volatile. The tier 1 scene's really volatile. It's just insulated by franchising, essentially. Like, the Lurv agreement, like, protects big teams, so they don't have to come up against Bad News Eagles very often. They don't have to come up against 9 very often.
Spirit.
So what they do, they got no idea what to fucking do. Like,
take some against teams like Spirit too, most of the time.
Well, yeah, I'm glad we get to see these teams go to LAN in this format. You can say what you want about the format. FaZe lost 3 best of 3s. Bad News Eagles went through because they won best of 3s. I don't give a shit what you think about the format. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, if these teams are consistently beating you at majors, you're doing something wrong. It's not the fault of the format. These teams are good.
So the 5 teams that didn't make it now at the end, that like 100% are not making the major. Sprout, which we were a little high on.
They were awful. It was so bad.
They weren't good. 1win, who
they were okay. They had some
Viperio, which I believe I said would finish 15-16. And they did. Good. Saw, who were not very good either. Yeah. And Virtus Pro, the current major winning defenders, kind of the core of the major.
They won Virtus Pro. The org won the first major in CS:GO, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, but they won't be winning the last one.
They won't be winning the last one, no. They also made a change before their last best of 3.
Oh, yeah, I fucking forgot about before their last best of 3, they said, they just said, no, Chiron's going to the bench, and Norbert's coming back in because there's a problem with Chiron's passport or something, and Chiron was like, fuck you, Norbert.
No. So VP said he struggled under pressure. Then,
didn't they?
I think it might have been Overdrive, or some journalist was like, no, it wasn't Overdrive. Some journalist was like, actually, there's a problem with his passport. Chiron corrected the journalist, like, no, there's no problem with my passport.
No. I think the journalist said there was a problem with his passport, and Chiron corrected him and said there was a problem with my passport, but it wouldn't have affected this.
Oh, okay.
No lines of like, yeah, I would have had to leave after like another 2 days or something. And the reason we brought Norbert was if it had to go that far, then you do the substitution because there was a passport issue. But he was good to play that day. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't make it. They fucking suck.
Yeah, they
were over.
Yeah, not great from them at all.
Let's talk about the third place team that well, I'm just going to read you off their games. So they took Na'Vi into double overtime.
The only team who came close to beating Na'Vi on a map, by the way.
Yep. Lost 22-19. Beat Sprout in a best of 1, 16-7. Beat Virtus Pro in a best of 1, 16-13. And then beat Bait in a best of 3, 2-1. That team is into the breach from the United Kingdom.
Plus a few extras, but
Plus a few extras.
Crucial, who's been on UK teams
basically British at this point.
Because somehow it's still a better scene than the Dutch one. And Roland, who has been on some pretty solid Polish teams, is a pretty decent player. He's one of the better, maybe the best player on this team.
We talked about him being on a go for a while and a little bit.
Yeah, he is a good player. But I sort of like offhandedly mentioned that, like Cypher's meant to be pretty good, but I don't know, like I don't really know how, like I'd heard it from people like in the UK scene, but you just never know, like, is he like good compared to the rest of the UK, or is he actually good? And then at this event, he's like, oh no, he's like actually
he's a fucking gamer, man.
Yeah, like he's actually good. He was ridiculous at this event. Like him and Rowland basically just carried them. I will say though, they ain't getting Vertigo again.
No, their
people
Vertigo
are just going to ban Vertigo against them.
Vertigo
and I think they're going to struggle then. Their Vertigo is amazing.
Yeah.
I worry about them on other maps.
I mean, they took Na'Vi really, really deep on Inferno, which is not the most Na'Vi map I've ever heard, but it's definitely a neutral ground.
Yeah, fine.
And like, I guess your general consensus that you can say is like, oh, well, they only beat weak people because they beat Sprout and VP in the best of ones. And then they beat Bait, but Bait looked pretty good up until best of threes, and like even with the best of threes, Bait looked pretty good against Fnatic and pretty good against Into the Breach.
But also like cleanly beating Sprout, fine. They, he said Sprout weren't great at this event, but it was 16-7. Like, that's pretty clean. I know, okay, it's one map, it was Vertigo, they probably won't get it again. Beat VP and Mirage, it's a map VP are good at. Like they played a bunch of different maps.
Yeah, Mirage is a map that VP is A, good at, and B, VP will still beat. If you're playing like shit, VP will beat you. I don't care if they looked like shit at this event, but the way that James plays the game,
I've played with enough.
Insulates them.
I've played with enough English stacks against Russians on Mirage to tell you that is a marquee win. You don't beat Russians on Mirage. You just if you see a single like if you play matchmaking Mirage and then you see Russians, you just quit. Like you just don't bother. It's unplayable. They will hit A 15 rounds in a row and they will kill your A anchor every single time.
Have you always wanted to own art inspired by Counter-Strike, but thought that regular Counter-Strike art looked too, gamery and not pretentious enough? Well, do we have the place for you? One of our friends, Roma Biv, has made some awesome Cubism-inspired Counter-Strike posters, which will be soon up for sale or purchase or some sort, and you can get free phone wallpapers. There's a tweet on our Twitter. Go find it. It's cool. They're very cool. You should go do that so you can look more pretentious in your backgrounds and not have like Marvel posters behind you.
I have a Counter-Strike post that I haven't put up yet. That's for the.
You should put it behind you so that way you.
I'm planning to move out soon, so I'll do it then. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But I will get one of these Cubism posters as well.
It's going to replace Alfred E. Newman, Uncle Sam up here. We're going to put one of the Cubism posters there. So that way it's always above my head. The Marvel posters will never go.
Never?
Well, when I leave, yeah, they will go. All right, back to the podcast. All right, I want to move on to Group B, which is currently going on now. As per usual, recording on Wednesday, which is the 12th. We have the first two teams that are going through. They have played their best of threes today. I think there are two more best of threes going on today.
No, I think we're done for the day.
Oh, we are done with the day. Okay. Europe time. So we're done with the day. So this will be up to date as of the 13th before matches start. Heroic and 9 have made it through as 3-0.
Yeah, 9 just 2-0'd Vitality. The game ended just like about 10 minutes into this podcast recording. I was watching it on the other screen, and it was like, oh, it's over? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, 9 have just won. I mean, the surprising thing about 9, because they've been good for ages in Tier 2. Like, they've been smurfing on
for
teams.
those of you who don't remember, 9 is the team that Hades went to post Ents, which is a full Polish team. So
the surprising thing is that Hades was not a star on Ents. Like, he was the AWP on Ents, but he was not the guy they played for. They played for Spinks. Hades was very much like a passive AWPer. Like, he was left to just hold an angle, and he was okay at it, but it was like, I always thought the reason that they did that was because he wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And like, he didn't look that good. But he's kind of the star on this team. He's certainly a lot more set up than he was on Ents from the few games I've seen. And I mean, he got 43 kills over the 2 maps. You know, second on the top of the leaderboard, second in frags. Like, against ZywOo as well.
Well, against ZywOo and they played against G2 and they beat G2 and
also importantly, he did better than Spinks, who was the star on Ents.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like, Hades was 23-16 against Mundisi, who was 24-18 on their one map on Nuke. Like, he's opping with the big boys, right? You win against two tier one oppers here, like top 5 oppers, and you fucking clap them.
Yeah, like the sort of rebirth of Hades is fantastic, and now as well. When Ents signed Hades, they went from 25th in the world to top 5 within a few months. Like, do you remember how instant it was? They signed Hades and they were just beasting. Mm-hmm. And then 9 signed Hades and went from fucking nowhere to 3-0 at the major. Like, it's like signing him is just an instant, massive boost. There's something about him where he's he joins the team and they just get better. Like,
he's got the sauce.
He's just, I don't know. He's also a very attractive man. Not relevant, but he is a very attractive man.
You're right. All right, let's talk about the 0-3 teams, the 2 teams that have not gone through.
Oh, do we have to?
Well, we have to talk about at least one of them. The first being iNation.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it wasn't expected for them to really get through.
iNation are very much a victim of, seeding. People want seeding, so they just want teams like iNation to just get absolutely hammered. They play big G2 and then Ents. Like, what chance do they realistically have of winning
against big? A lot. Against the other 2 teams, 0.
Big in Swiss system though are different. Yeah, they got battered by G2. They got 16-0'd by Ents, but then put up. I think they took them to 30 rounds on map 2. But it's really difficult to say anything about them. They played 3 big teams, bigger teams certainly, and lost as you'd expect. It's unfortunate.
Let's talk about the Russian giant who's not in the room.
Yeah, that Spirit were fucking awful at this event. So then I get a lot of stick on Twitter because I said they should have been top 5. That I genuinely believe for about 6 to 9 months they were a top 5 team, but they just weren't in either of the they weren't in Blast franchising or in the ESL franchising, so they just never got to show it. But when they went to big events, they did really well. They made playoffs several times. I was like, no, they're actually good, and now they're just not good. I don't know what's happened to their firepower. Patsy is just not the same player. Wonderful wasn't I don't know if he just wasn't putting he was so reliable in the past. Where even in bad games, he would just get his kills. He'd just hold his angles. He'd get his kills, the simple ones. And he wasn't even doing that. The T sides were lazy, I guess is what I've described them as. It felt like they were just walking into angles without really clearing it. Whereas in the past, they used to have really strong flashbang, especially on executes. Their flashbangs were amazing. And there's just so many times in the deciding game against Astralis where Device is just completely unflashed the entire round and it just gets 3 kills. And you're what's happened here? They were really good at Ancient in the past. and they've like lost 5 in a row on it now. I don't know what's happened to them. Maybe it's the changes to Ancient have been really unkind to them, and that's why they're bad at it. But firepower-wise, they don't look the same, and structurally, they just like look lost on T sides. They used to have really good T sides. Their CT sides could be a bit iffy, but they used to have really strong T sides, and they just don't anymore.
Yeah, I want to get to the rest of the teams here, so we'll go through by record right now. So the other teams are 2-1 and 1-2 respectively. We'll go through the 2-1s first. So that's G2, Big, Cloud9, all teams that we'd expect here. Vitality, after their loss to 9 earlier today, is here. Fours, who many probably were expecting to be here, but it's still supposedly a surprise to some people.
So the reason it's probably a surprise to people is because they didn't have a good siege. They've played Cloud9, ENCE, and NIP, all big names. Even if like NIP are a bit shambolic, ENCE haven't been great at this event, but they're still a good team. Like Fours have had to play Cloud9, ENCE, and NIP, and they're 2-1. Like you'd be pretty happy with that. And now they get to play the next team you're about to mention in a 2-1 game.
Yeah, the other surprising team that of this event currently, which is Monty, a team that we had talked about as a team of a bunch of people, including former Na'Vi player Sumdae Young.
Dude, how fucking good is Boros?
Yeah.
How good is this kid? Like, everyone kind of knew he was good from that time at Endpoint, and like, just looking at his numbers, you're like, oh yeah, no, he's probably good. But he's always had visa problems, and
yeah,
he's really been to these events.
For what it's worth.
Yeah. Mate, he's fucking unbelievable. Like, they lost 2-0 to Heroic today. Heroic, for my money, are the best team in the world. And to be honest, I don't think it's particularly close anymore.
No, it's a clusterfuck between 2 and 5.
Everybody else is reliable. Whereas Heroic just play the same game every time. And you have to hit like 10 out of 10 to get close to them.
I would have thought about telling you that VP was close to be the number 2. But
I don't know about
that. But yeah, Monty...
They lost 2-0. Boros on Mirage dropped 30 kills and a 16-12 loss. He went 30-18 in a 16-12 loss. He was ripping heads off. He was so good in that game. He deserved to win Mirage. I mean, he fell off a bit on Overpass, but
like against ENCE, Boros went 26-19 in what is that? 27 rounds. Right, like
dude, he's frying, man. Like
his
cooking. Crosshair placement is so good. The way he clears angles on Mirage, he kind of looks like an AI that's been designed to clear angles. Like it's like I remember the first few times I watched Rops play, and I just couldn't believe it. Like his crosshair was glued to angles when he cleared them. It was amazing. And there's kind of like Exertion's quite similar to Boros. The way they clear angles is amazing. Exertion against FaZe was ridiculous.
Yeah, and for those of you bitching about seeding, Monty, to get here to the 2-1 spot, had to play ENCE, then Cloud9, and then they lost to Heroic. They played Forza tomorrow.
Pretty close. I mean, 16-14 Overpass.
2-0 is a little deceptive. But yeah, no, so Monty's kind of right now the surprise. I think they're guaranteed a spot in Last Chance Qualifier. Yeah, I think they with being 2-1, they're guaranteed Last Chance Qualifier.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think so. Because the worst they can go is 3-2, and there's 3 spots.
Yeah, I guess some other teams would have to lose.
Sorry, 2-3.
Yeah. So yeah, they're fucking good right now. They're cooking a little bit.
Yeah, and they get Fours, which I think both teams will be looking at that as a winnable game.
Yeah, I think that's a game that's been played out before.
Oh,
right?
I didn't check. Have you seen Cloud9 play G2 in a 2-1 game?
No, that's a banger. Yeah, and the last 2-1 game will be Vitality and Big. If you
not interested. Hope Big win.
No,
but not interested.
It'd
be great if Vitality do end up in the Last Chance Qualifier and they have to play FaZe. That would be the hype on that game would be amazing.
No, Vitality Falcons?
Oh, what's better?
The better French opera, .. kennyS versus the Kid.
Oh, that's true. It would be kennyS versus ZywOo for a spot in the Paris Major. Oh, that would be
either. Wait, but both of those could actually happen if Vitality makes it down. Because I think the way that
kennyS versus ZywOo for a spot in the Paris Major would be that would be ridiculous. That'd be so good. The last
chance qualifiers set up?
It's like one team goes through. It's like to do with seeding on who.
Oh, here it is.
The lowest seeds. I think the two highest seeds automatically go to like semis.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Let's just qualifiers to be a banger. If you watch any Counter-Strike soon, that's
gonna be fire. That.
All right. So teams that are 1 and 2, ENCE.
Yeah, started off badly. Beat iNation.
They started off badly, but B, they kind of got shit seeding.
Like, I don't know, Monty fours you'd be pretty happy with if you're a big team. You should you should at least be winning one of those.
Let me rephrase the shit seeding. They got seeded against teams who are popping the fuck off.
Yeah, but like, come on, you can't in this group you can't really be complaining about Monty and fours. I think.
Yeah. Eternal Fire is 1-2. They took
their L. Astralis, and it was Major who top ranked. What?
I don't know where Xantares is right now, but this Xantares show needs to come back for them to have a chance of making it
at 9 a.m. I will not be waking up for that, I'm afraid.
Speaking of our friends in the stars, and friends is a very, very strong word there. Astralis lost to Vitality and Eternal Fire and beat Spirit to knock them out.
Yeah.
This RMR has just kind of been the device show.
Yeah, I'd say like Spirit made it very, very easy for him. I'm not gonna lie. He was pretty good against Vitality.
Yeah, he was good against he wasn't great against Eternal Fire, but like he was plus 21 KD against.
But he plays NIP tomorrow, so
banger series, banger match right there. That one could be worth waking up for if you want to see the device revenge game.
It's almost worth waking up for.
And then 500 is our last 1 and 2 team. They took a win off of Spirit. This is the full Bulgarian team with ships on it.
Spirit, man, how do you lose to 500? No, it's not on. It's not.
Yeah, they lost 16-8 to both Heroic and Big. So that shows you that they're really good 16-8 team.
Yeah, I mean, who did 500 play tomorrow?
500, they don't know. It doesn't seem like they
presumably it's ENCE, because ENCE also don't have a game listed, so it's almost certainly ENCE.
That makes sense.
Yeah. ENCE versus 500. Look, you're talking about ENCE seeding. They're going to play Monty 4's iNation 500 in their first 4 games. They must have had an unbelievable seed.
Yeah, they kind of fucked it a little
bit. If
they
don't go through, they have fucked it hard. Like, big time fucked it.
All right.
I'm so excited. The last 2 days of the RMR is some of the best Counter-Strike around. Like, the last few games are so hype. G2 Cloud9, man. That's such a banger game.
All right. We got one more bit that I want to talk about, and Elliot and I talked about exactly how we want to put this out to make it clear of thoughts about this. So Loba has put out a long twit longer. I guess by definition it's long. It's a twit longer. A twit longer about his experience at the Asian RMR. Generally, Loba is a shit poster. That may still be the case, possibly. So
you describe him as an unreliable narrator.
Yeah. So yeah, in reading, in books, there's a thing which is like you only know what the narrator tells you. So we only know what Loba's telling us. We don't have blast statements. We don't have. I think Meztal replied a little thing that said a little bit of it, but nothing majorly.
Yeah, I don't think he's completely bullshitting, but I just
but
I don't know.
We need to preface
man. You can't take him seriously.
Yeah, so I want to go through the big points because some of these I just don't give a shit about. Some of these are poorly run events. Some of these are actually bad things. So to start, actually bad thing. Apparently, none of the people from Mesa, so admins, security, player manager, were all volunteers. So
yeah,
they didn't get paid.
That's common at like small lands.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be common for a major.
Probably not for a major, no. But it's also in Mongolia. Like,
how
much money do they really have?
During the tournament, all 5 PCs, when they were on them, had full internet access. If you weren't aware of this, Valve has really strict rules about computer internet access and what ports and stuff you can and cannot block. To basically say Steam can get to the internet, and that's it. And it's basically just to let you sign in with your Steam account, and that's it. And you can't just like access YouTube and shit. And they were like, you could do whatever you want online on these computers. Apparently there were threats, and so they put security guards outside of their rooms. A random fan walked into their room. Every game had losses, and you couldn't hear pop flashes sometimes, and there were so many tech pauses, which we did see.
Yeah.
We did see tech pauses, that there were PCs that were replaced, and at that one point they were just like, fuck it, we're just going to play with this because it's ridiculous, and obviously you can't replace every PC. They apparently Blast admins were, quote, super rude and annoying.
Yeah, see, like, that's where the unreliable narrator
that's where the
I'm sure they'd probably say the same thing about Loba, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm gonna read this one specifically and word for word. On top of everything, we found out from managers of other teams that allegedly there were players who were sick and had corona and weren't told this by Blast at all. As you can see in my vlog, I was entering rooms, talking to them, fist bumping after games, and we were all in the same room playing officials. Spawns found it suspicious when they told us to wear masks. He asked why, does someone have corona? They said no. KD and Doc got sick and didn't feel well, which, like, that's so shitty if you're...
Yeah.
Come on. Seems that Loba has decided to pay the volunteers after the fact, which, good guy, Loba.
Fair enough.
But,
good lad.
But yeah.
So the problem is, and I don't expect the average Twitch chatter to speak eloquently on any subject, but people are always like, oh, shit major, shit production, Blast production, KEKW, like, they do this every fucking major, no matter who it is, and then call, oh no, they should give it back to ESL, even though 6 months before they said ESL's production was shit. Putting on a major is really fucking hard. Putting on 4 RMRs near simultaneously, at least 3 of them simultaneously, is fucking impossible. The scale of the operation ESL pulled off to do all of them at the same time, there was 6 streams running on. I don't care what outsiders think. That's ridiculously impressive. Blast are a smaller company. They do not have the funds ESL do. They do not have the amount of people ESL do. So they outsourced it to local TOs, which I get, like, that makes sense, and in theory is a good thing, but unfortunately they just were not ready for a job of this scale, which you can blame Blast for it, but it's kind of on both of them, and it's, I don't know, it's difficult. Putting on an event like this is really fucking difficult. Yeah,
so there's many things in my life that I would say I'm an expert in. There's a few things in my life.
Many things I'm an expert on.
No, there's few things in my life I would say I'm an expert in, but one of them is actually event planning. I've been doing it for like 10 years on the side, and I know I'm young, but I've been doing it for a really long time. And I happen to do it, like, both of us happen to work in esports, whether it's like behind the scenes. Both of us, I've done a bunch of observing and casting and desk analyst gigs, and you've done more production oriented stuff, but both of us have done that stuff. And I can tell you for a fact that, like, I don't think that the problem was that Blast didn't have the cap. If we're talking about Blast versus ESL in this, like, one specific context, right? I don't think it's that Blast didn't have the capital. I'm sure that they had some money to do this.
Oh yeah, it's not a capital thing.
No. I think that ESL just has had more of a global reach because of being in Counter-Strike, and also Dota. This last weekend, ESL ran some, like, mobile competition in DreamHack San Diego. ESL has a bigger sort of reach that they can pull together to host RMRs and stuff. That's like, oh, normally you're a Dota observer. Well, you're going to, actually, in your case, normally you're a CSGO ticker observer. Tomorrow you're going to run Dota ticker.
Yeah,
right.
I'm actually doing the Dota 2 major. I'm flying to Berlin at the end of this month to do it.
So my point exactly is, like, they are able to say, well, normally you do this for Counter-Strike, but this week it's a bigger deal for Dota, and there's not really Counter-Strike, and we can move our resources as needed. And Blast doesn't have that, right? But I think Blast is like Fortnite every once in a while, and like that's it. It's like CS:GO is Blast's main product, and realistically their only product. So they don't have the same kind of like reach. Now, the other problem is the places where they chose to put these. So in Europe, where were they in Europe? I don't actually remember. Was it like Berlin or something?
Copenhagen.
They were in Copenhagen. Okay, so we were near Blast headquarters, right? In a place in which 1 million Counter-Strike events have run before, right? Blast Copenhagen, like 7 times. I think PGL is going to run a major there for CS2, if I remember correctly. Right? They've run... Copenhagen is a pretty central place for them to have done esports and have esports stuff there. The problem is in the other 2 locations in America, they did it in Monterrey, Mexico, where they've never run an event there before. I think the only time an esports event, like a big esports event in my head that has been run there, was League of Legends Worlds last year, which was run in Mexico City, and Riot has their own stuff. So they're special on this. They have a whole traveling show that they do. And there's as far as I'm aware, there's never been a big event in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia. And so they're bringing these local people who have run a couple of LANs and stuff, but they're not bringing in these like heavy hitters of like, oh, well, if we went to, let's say, Florida or New York City, it's like, oh, well, you're going to help bring in the people that ran DreamHack or used to run IEM Cologne, IEM New York or something like that. It's a very different story. And plus you're doing them all at the same time.
From what I gather as well, that there's an issue where like they pick people who aren't the best. I saw some people saying like they haven't picked the best TO in the country, and then when they come back they'll use the same ones because they've used them before, even if there's issues. I know that's a thing.
Like I think here we used Liga Ace or something like that. Here being America, which super not used out in North America, right? It's used a little bit more in South America, but it's Blast's provider, and you know what? They were fine. There were definitely issues, but they got past a chunk of them. As you said, running one event is fucking terrifying and ridiculous,
running
right?
Running
4 simultaneously is insane. There were definitely like cost-effective things that happened. You can see it with if it's true that the people in Ulaanbaatar didn't get paid like there. The first thing I noticed was the America's B stream sounded like shit because they weren't using the same headsets that everyone else was using. That's a me thing, but like I know
that's a thing. You could say like Blast don't have the same size. They don't have the same amount of people that they necessarily trust. Like ESL, I know, have multiple people for each job. Like I've met a lot of different people working in production at ESL. They have a lot of people who can do each job. So when they had to run 4 events at a time, they have an ESL Asia as well. They have an ESL Australia, I think. Like that, they have people out there who they trust as well. So it's a lot easier. Whereas for Blast, they probably have their small group of people who they innately trust and who are on the books, and they just don't have the same like list of people they can book, and so they're just like, we're just going to have to outsource it and hope that they do a good job. And
the other way of doing something like this on the running multiple events basically at the same time kind of thing is the way that Riot does it with Riot Striker, which is their big production facility in Ireland. That they basically just have a whole building that says we're going to get all the best people there, and you in your location, so in Monterrey, Mexico, you're going to say, here's all the raw feed, take it, go. And you're always gonna push from the same location, so you have your best people who are employed year round doing it there. But Blast doesn't need to be year round. They don't need to have this much stuff, and so
they don't need this much infrastructure most of the time.
So esports production from 2 people who do it sometimes. Thank you.
I mean, like I'm very much a small fish in a big pond, but I have a little bit of experience working in production. Also, a lot of the time when you see tech pauses, maybe not at this event, but a lot of the time when you see tech pauses, it's not a tech problem. It's like a player's gone to the toilet and they just have to call it a tech pause. There are so many tech pauses caused by players that are just like wrongly attributed because you don't want to blame the players. It's like, oh yeah, quick tech pause. It's actually like a player's just like shit his guts out. It's just nothing to do with tech, and you'll still get blamed
unless
for it.
It's on stage. Then it's not a.
Yeah.
Then it generally is a tech pause like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone on for a little bit long here. You can come back next week. We will be talking about the end of the RMR B and prepping for the major. It's in like 2 weeks.
There's also like IAM Rio and ASL Melbourne as well, because I'm working that.
SDC tickets are still not out yet. We're under 2 months away from the event and still can't buy a ticket.
I've got this really fun end of the month where I work 3 days of ESL Melbourne from my house. So I flip my sleep schedule. So I'm waking up at like 10 in the evening and then going to bed at like in the afternoon. And then the day after that finishes, I'm flying to Berlin to do an arena event in Berlin for Dota. And then like 3 days after that, I'm going to Paris. So fun. It's going to be a fun
month for you, man. I don't know what to tell you.
It's going to be chaos.
All right, well, come back to us next week where you will see all of the new things that happen in Counter-Strike. And follow us on Twitter at Logan Aizyesque, at AZSK, and at ReadTLDR. Goodbye.